The reek of locomotive coal smoke gave way to the pungent scent of the river. The gigantic ferries, named for the road's far-flung empire, the Philadelphia, the Pittsburgh, the St. Louis, were painted a signature Tuscan red and emblazoned with the PRR's proud Keystone crest. As the commuter throng pressed onto the Cortlandt Street ferry, a sign admonished passengers, "Gentlemen will not, others must not, spit on the floor." The freshening river breezes riffled Cassatt's thinning sandy hair and drooping mustache as he angled to the front of the open deck, his intelligent blue-gray eyes calmly sizing things up. Cassatt's aura of authority was tempered by a laconic reserve, a slight stoop, and hint of melancholy. Little known to the general public, Alexander J. Cassatt had long been viewed by his peers as the most brilliant railroad official in this country. With American railroads at the apogee of their importance and influence, the mightiest and, in some circles, most despised economic force in the nation, this was no small accolade. Cassatt, a veteran engineer and executive of immense talent, had reluctantly emerged 2 years earlier, in 1899, from 17 years of pleasant retirement to take charge of the Pennsylvania Railroad, thus becoming one of the most powerful men in the United States. All about him was the luminous, briny river air, and ahead a wondrous sweep of sky and currents. Yet the very bodies of glistening water that encircled Manhattan and made the port city so rich were now starting to strangle her rambunctious growth. In 1901, only one major bridge, that marvel of grace and engineering, the Brooklyn Bridge, connected Manhattan to any other piece of land. Only one railway, the Vanderbilt's New York Central Railroad, came directly into Manhattan, and that from upstate. The New York Central ran down the east bank of the Hudson River, across the narrow Harlem River, and into the heart of Gotham. For many decades, sole ownership of this wonderful monopoly had made the Vanderbilts America's richest family, notorious for their churlish indifference to the well-being of their road's passengers. The late, large William H. Vanderbilt, his mausoleum still guarded by Pinkertons around the clock against grave robbers, had summed it up neatly with his infamously imperious, "Let the public be damned." The other 10 railroads serving New York, the world's greatest port, as well as the nation's colossus of trade, finance, manufacturing, and culture, had had no choice but to build sprawling waterfront terminals on the industrialized New Jersey shore and to operate fleets of ferries across to Gotham. In typical corporate understatement, the PRR's official historians noted that the Pennsylvania, as the Central's greatest rival, could not view this situation complacently. Alexander Cassatt found these ferry rides a galling reminder that, unlike its nemesis, the Central, the Pennsylvania Railroad, which prided itself on being the nation's largest, richest, and best-operated road, still had no way to bring its trains into the commercial heart of the nation's busiest seaport. Easy access to Gotham was arguably as important in the 20th century as had been the building of the Transcontinental Railroad in the 1860s, or the great interoceanic canal now being proposed to cross the Isthmus of Panama. And yet, astonishingly, there was no definite plan. No bridge or tunnel of the magnitude needed to span the Hudson River had ever been built. But Cassatt could now console himself that he and his great corporation were actively considering building the gargantuan North River Bridge, the long-promoted solution of engineer Gustav Lindenthal, and what would be the biggest bridge in the world. As Cassatt had confided to General William J. Sewell the previous spring, "We are now taking up the question of the construction of the bridge seriously." British politician James Bryce had been stunned by the princely power and influence of American railroads and the men, potentates, who ran them, writing in 1888, "These railway kings are among the greatest men, perhaps I may say are the greatest men in America. They have power, that is, more opportunity of making their personal will prevail, than perhaps any one in political life, except the President and the Speaker." By 1900, the 185,000 miles of American rails equaled those of the whole rest of the world combined. Alexander Cassatt, as the 7th president in the history of the Pennsylvania Railroad,